So you did Afghanistan, which the unit did not do Afghanistan as much as Dev grew.
Right.
So you guys more Iraq.
Yep.
But what would you I guess just in general, the contrast between Afghanistan and Iraq?
The contrast for me, because, it's all geographically wherever you're at. For me at that time, it was nothing like a lot of guys experience in Afghanistan. We were on a time-sensitive target force. So we were a reserve force with the helos that just went and hit these time-sensitive targets. So we didn't do a whole lot. We did probably 4 or 5 missions. So we didn't get a whole lot out. So I that was my limited exposure in Afghanistan. So we were in Bagram. I mean, as far as at a big base, we're hitting the gym, hitting the chow hall, playing Halo. What I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
going out doing your thing, come back.
Hitting the range, and going out doing it and come back. So not the only interaction that we had was on target, with guys. So I didn't get the same experience that a lot of guys had, when they were by, with, and through, and extended land missions. And even, once a lot of the guys started going back in 2012 timeframe, I didn't get that experience in Afghanistan, but I did get that experience, that kind of fighting in Iraq, but not in Afghanistan. And, deal with Afghanistan, just the geography, man, relentless, those mountains.
It's brutal.
Man, the land itself is something.
And then add the elements of the cold in the winter, and it's a brutal place.
Yeah.
And the Taliban, of course, the combatants know they live there. They're walking around those mountains in dress shoes.
Exactly, man. And they
flip-flops and dress shoes.
Because it was a lot of times, what y'all experienced, a lot of guys did in Afghanistan, the Afghanis were. Eventually, a lot of the Iraqis turned into solid soldiers if they didn't get killed. You know what I mean? Bad guys, solid bad guys, worth fighting bad guys. But it was always the foreign fighters,
Yeah.
Those guys that have been fighting for a long, they were like, there's a lot of those guys that were our equivalent. You know what I mean? They got a lot of, some of them more combat time than we had, man. So, when it was real fighting, real fighting, not just a killing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, the 3-to-1 ratio that we always love to have. So it's not a challenge, but man, whenever it got to like, hey man, I'm not sure if we're going to make it out of this one, those kind of moments, you know what I mean? That was always with the foreign fighters, man, or Kurds, bad Kurds.
Yeah. So, because with the unit you did 10 deployments to Iraq or so.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So what were those capture kill missions as well?
Yeah. So the whole rest of the different times that ever I would go, I was also in the recce sniper troop.
Okay.
But we were also used, what was a little bit different than the folks I was attached to or worked with. We were also used as an assault force. So, so that way the commander, would have, multiple assault teams instead of just these snipers, because we all start off as assaulters, you got to have a minimum of 1 year as assaulter before you can go the recce sniper. And some guys just are into that. Some didn't.
Yeah.
And, but I always loved it because I always loved more responsibility,
I don't know if you could say, if you can, is it public, which squadron is the equivalent of Black Squadron, the recce sniper squadron?
There's a bunch of stuff on Wikipedia that may or may not be accurate.
Okay. Yeah, you can go to Wikipedia.
But we had that element in-house with us, you know what I mean, in each one. And so we were able to, so the cool thing about that being with the squadron I was with is we got the best of both worlds.
Okay.
Like, so if there was a sniper mission, like First Battle of Fallujah I was a part of, we got that one. And then the rest of the time, if there wasn't like, hey, a really good sniper mission, then we were assaulters. So we were like double dipping, you know what I mean? So we were assaulters whenever, and the guys that weren't snipers couldn't go on the sniper stuff because obviously they weren't snipers. So I loved it. You know what I mean? I loved, like I said, man, I was living the dream, you know what I mean? To be in the premier unit, in the Army, as far as direct action anyway, and, you know what I'm saying, man? I was, all the missions, all the money, no BS, no details, no nothing like that. You're either in war or training for war, period, end of story. Yeah. Like, yeah, man, loving it with the same kind of caliber of men and women. And, man, it's just, Yeah, that was part of the heartbreak of why it was so hard leaving.
Yeah.
You know, the way that I left was because, like I said, man, the loves in my life, you know, what I mean, is my family and the United States Army, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was one of those retard
Yeah.
lifers, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was gonna do. I'd spent all my time there. I loved it. Again, it was. So we were talking about missions and stuff. So significant things that happened for me was, like I said, at first on that mountain in Afghanistan, my first hit, man, I was so happy. You know, it was professional. You know what I mean? I was just doing my job. Bad guys are doing their job. We're doing our job. You got, you know what I mean? It was like everything was a professional and appropriate. And so I did multiple deployments, and then God would always have me around conventional units at times, and I was like a curse for him. Not really. I just would. But if I was around conventional guys, it was like, hey man, like you're about to get screwed up, because I ended up turning into a medic, because you know the level of trauma medicine that we knew, you know, as operators and train. You know, we did live tissue training. Our level of trauma just on the trauma battlefield side of the house exceeded any regular medic. You know what I mean? Just on the plugging holes and keeping people alive thing. So I did, so there was like 3 mass casualty events that I was a part of, man. And that's what, if there's anything that got me, as far as emotionally, cause I was good, man, with everything that I was doing, even when taking human life, you know, cause a lot of guys, some guys, you know, have trouble, especially afterwards, you know, reconciling, that, you know what I mean? As far as like, hey, taking human lives. For me, and again, I just always give my experiences, is like, hey man, when I'm on my knees in front of my creator, which that's what everything boils down to for me. Like, I'm going to tell my creator what I did. He already knows, you know what I mean? But I'm going to say, hey, you know what I mean? I murdered human beings, you know what I mean? Like, by the definition of had a plan, you know what I mean? And executed it. But here's my reasons why. Here's what, you know what I'm saying? State my case and state my why, and hope that's good enough.